For a closer look at economic tensions between the U.S. and China, we're joined now by Yan Liang. She is a professor of economics at Willamette University. Professor Yan Liang, thanks so much for joining us. China and the U.S. postponed a review of the Phase 1 trade deal. Why the delay, and what, if anything, are the consequences of that move?
Nice talking to you, Roee. So the delay was given two reasons. One is the schedule conflict. Apparently, Liu He is participating in a high-level Communist Party member meeting at Beidaihe. And then the second reason apparently is from the U.S. side. They wanted to give China a little bit more time to fulfill the trade agreements. But the actual reason is probably we'll never know, whether it's because China is frustrated by the U.S.'s, arbitrary and pernicious assault on its tech firms, or maybe it's because President Trump didn't feel that China is giving enough political capital by buying agriculture goods. So we don't really know exactly the reason for why there's been a delay. But I think it is in the interest of both countries to resume the trade talks, because this is one of the channels that both countries can foster some positive relationships. And also, I think this is good for the U.S., right? Remember now, 2/3 of the Chinese imports in the U.S. are still subject to very high tariffs. And that's when American people are struggling with the pandemic economic recession. I think we need to have better trade policies between the two countries to revive the economy.
Have the recent U.S. bans on Chinese apps affected China's view of the trade deal, or indeed the view of the Chinese peoples of it?
Absolutely. Again, I think most people in China would see this as a arbitrary and an insult, right? First of all, this accusation about security threat finds no evidence. The U.S.'s own CIA reported that there was no evidence of the so-called national security threat. And also, TikTok actually stores all the U.S. user data in the U.S. And with a backup in Singapore. And finally, I think the United States government is the one that stipulates that the social media firms should hand over user data to the government for the national security reasons. So, and that, by the way, is the reason for the breakdown of the recent EU-US Privacy Act. So giving all these, it's a very baseless assault, not to mention it's very harmful, not only to China, but also to the United States, right? Think about, if other countries came along and said, we need to sell Google's operation or Facebook or Twitter's operation in these other countries to their own national firms, guess how the U.S. will react? So I think that's why a lot of businesses are opposing this decision so vocally.
Well, Phase 1 implies that there is a Phase 2. When might that happen, and what might it entail?
Well, that's a great question. I think, even though China is not meeting exactly the pledged purchases, it's only meeting about 25% to 30%, depending on whose data you're looking at. But I think China is firmly committed to implementing the trade deal. So it has accelerated the purchase of agricultural products recently, and it also has made progress on other fronts, like it has opened the financial sector, it has removed the restrictions on beef imports the first time since 2003. The Supreme Court, by the way, also published the IP protection guidelines recently. So I think China is making the firm commitment to fulfill the Phase 1 trade deal. So hopefully the U.S. will be able to see that and act in good faith, and hopefully the both sides will start the negotiations and talks, making some progress on the trade front.
If there is a President Biden, how might any of this look differently in the future?
I don't think the Biden administration would go easy with China. I mean, this seems to be the case where the two countries will be in the kind of constant tension for a long time, regardless who's going to be in the office. But I think at least the Biden office will be more predictable, will be more sensible, and they probably would also be more rational, would not make the unrealistic demand of regime change in China. But I think they will demand a lot of behavioral changes on China's part. But I think that in the long run, it's actually in the interest of China. China does need to reform and open, so I think both sides would have a lot of agreements to work on.
All right. Our thanks to Yan Liang, Professor of Economics at Willamette University.
Thank you for having me.